Welcome back to Tethered and Whole. I'm your host, Matt Weld, and today I want to talk about something that has become quite the buzzword in recent years: boundaries. Everyone says, I need to work on my boundaries. Well, what does that even really mean? Are we talking walls, fences, rules, or just saying no more often? That's what we're going to talk about today. And let me start with a story that Gretchen McRae tells. A long time ago, two brothers lived on an island by the sea. After chores, they loved to play ball in a field that stretched between their house and a cliff that plunged straight into the waves below. They loved their game, but they always kept one eye on the edge, worried that their ball might sail over and be lost forever in the crashing waves. One day, a carpenter passing by offered to build them a fence. The older brother refused politely, saying it would keep out interesting people like the carpenter. The younger brother agreed, adding that a fence would block their view of fireworks and visitors who stopped by to share stories. But later, when they returned from a trip to the mainland, they found that the carpenter had built the fence anyway. First they were upset. Yet, as they played, they realized that they were freer than before. No longer worried about the cliff's edge, they ran harder, they kicked farther, and invented new games. Their play expanded because of the safety the fence provided. And one day, a traveler joined them. A passerby had come through the gate. The brothers discovered that boundaries didn't have to shut out connection. Instead, they created the freedom to play fully while still allowing others in. That story gets at the paradox of boundaries. They don't exist to wall us off. They exist to give us the freedom and safety to live more fully. Now, let's connect this to Nedra Tawwab's work. In her book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace, she defines boundaries as, quote, something that keeps you safe and comfortable in your relationships. She emphasizes being clear, direct, and compassionate. For example, instead of saying, I don't like it when you interrupt me, you might say, I need to finish my thought before you respond. Because you see, boundaries are not punishments. They're guides. They're guides for how we want to be treated and then how we will treat other people. So let's go a little deeper. Boundaries can look different in practice, almost like the 3 types of a cell membrane. And the science teacher nerd in me is geeking out over this metaphor. All right, so number 1, you can have impermeable boundaries, just like an impermeable membrane where nothing gets through. Think prison fences or plastic wrap. In relationships, this might look like rigid walls where no vulnerability is allowed. You've armored up, as Brené Brown says. The second kind is permeable, where everything flows in and out. That's like checking work email at all hours or saying yes to every request with no filter, no protection. The third kind is semi-permeable, a hybrid between the first two. These allow some things through, with rules about who, when, or how, like your front door. Your kids can walk through freely, but guests, they have to knock. Most healthy boundaries are semi-permeable. They let in what nurtures us and keeps out what harms us. Here's the kicker for teachers, though. Research shows that poor boundary management is linked to emotional exhaustion and to burnout. And when teachers can't regulate their emotional exposure, whether to students, parents, or colleagues, the stress compounds. On the flip side, clear professional boundaries are associated with better emotional regulation and higher job satisfaction. So, boundaries are more than self-care. They're professional practice. They safeguard our emotional energy so that we can show up fully in our classrooms. In our exploration of boundaries, it's important to verbalize what boundaries are not. First, boundaries are not a substitute for self-regulation. If a common classroom phrase triggers you, like a student calling you dude, that's not a boundary issue. That's a self-awareness and regulation opportunity. Second, Boundaries are not excuses. Declining a rare social invitation by saying, it violates my boundary, may be less about boundaries and more about your discomfort. So be honest with yourself. And last, boundaries are not a way to dodge responsibility. If your district requires a 24-hour response to parent emails, ignoring them in the name of work-life boundaries, folks, that's not fair play. You still have to follow expectations. Boundaries are about clarity, not avoidance. So, how do we bring this back into practice this week? Consider this strategy. What you're going to do, you're going to identify one area that drains you. Maybe it's after hours texting with parents or colleagues unloading on you during their prep period. Define the fence. What's the guideline that would help you feel safe and comfortable? For example, I don't answer emails after 6 p.m. Or perhaps, I need to use my prep period for work. Let's talk at lunch instead. Then, communicate clearly. Boundaries don't work if no one knows they exist. Be direct, but be kind. And then defend consistently. When the ball rolls towards the edge of the cliff, the fence has to hold. Otherwise, people stop trusting your words. And remember, the stronger the relationship, the more relevant the boundary. Just like the brothers discovered, boundaries don't shut people out. They allow us to play fully, connect freely, and teach from a place of safety. So here's your challenge for this week. Pick one boundary that would give you more freedom. Define it, communicate it, and hold it. Hold it like that fence at the cliff. And then notice how it shifts your energy and your presence in the classroom. Because when we protect our edges, we can show up more fully in the middle, tethered and whole. I'm your host, Matt Weld, for the Tethered and Whole podcast, and I'll see you next week.